the farmers, I mean, we've been farming Manitoba since, I think, 1870, maybe. We have to trust that the people whose very livelihood and their families and their forefathers' livelihoods have depended on the notion of sustainability defined anyway, will always have the interests of sustainability at heart. Otherwise, they have nothing.
We think about what's best for the next generation as we farm a piece of dirt. Well, think that way too in response to these new pressures, and do it slowly and do it right. And there will be lots more ideas than were mentioned already today coming up in the next few years, and let's just get that message through to the government too, that we're going to do this. You don't worry, we want to be sustainable. We always have been.
I really think that we need to slow this whole thing down. I think that Eastern policy, I can say that because I'm from Ontario, has leaped far ahead of what's, I think, pragmatic and what is, practical for Canada. And it's not to say we don't need to be making improvements, but I do think that the policy, perhaps in an effort to be a leader in the world, or perhaps for some other reasons, has far surpassed what it is that we're able to do. Feel like I've maybe been on a farm in every country in the world at some point, and I have yet to see, in an aggregated way, anybody farm better than Western Canadian farmers. And the vast majority of the improvements that the Western Canadian farmer, and in the East too, have made, they have done without the need for any government policy whatsoever. They've made these achievements together with their different suppliers, improved the intensification of the farming, all on their own, which should tell all of us quite a lot about what the role of government policy is relative to the way a farmer wants to take care of his land in a generational way.
There's lots of opportunity there if it's done right, and if it is translated into action on the landscape. And taking that information and having the producers use it, that's where the challenge is. So we are not doing great, to tell you the truth. On fertilizer, yes, I think we are having some success on kind of the nutrient stewardship side of things. I would say we have some success on making sure we have some organic regenerative ag practices. But when it comes to things like manure management and anaerobic digestion, we really don't have much to show for there. And overall, I think knowledge is not the limiting factor here. So research, innovation is not the limiting factor. It's the incentives that drive change that holds us back. So it goes back to policy, I guess.
We can talk about biofuel and all these things, but really the core of agriculture is producing food. And that's a real intrinsic value that we can't lose sight of. We're now living in a time that is very real in our world, how important food is. Not just for human life, but for peace and stability in the world. And so in all these conversations, it has to come back to that. And to me, it would be unacceptable to have any solution that would take away from the food that we can produce, especially in a country like Canada.
We always have to ask, is there a consumer who's willing to pay for it? And right now, there's a subset of the population that is, and I would call them, no offense to anyone who's all into this, you're usually wealthy enough and eco-conscious enough to afford these kinds of products because they cost more. They also, so it's also for us a product that isn't necessarily recession-proof. If there's going to be a challenge, that's the first one where we see a dip in sales or demand. So now we've reduced the amount of food produced per acre, right? It's 2/3 maximum. In addition to that, if you look at the literature, and our farm's not much different, to achieve 80% of conventional yield is you're doing pretty good. So 80% of 67% is 55%. Well, you're going to feed the world on 55% compared to conventional systems? No, you're not. So you're going to go introduce take out more land and turn it into farmland? That's also not something that's good, especially not in the context of greenhouse gases.
I think farmers are feeling really frustrated because we have this thrown at us. We haven't been told how we're going to do it. We haven't been told, these practices move the needle this much. And if you don't understand the impact of something, how can you really change it? So I think taking advantage of farmers as experts, I think the more that we can engage farmers with researchers to not only help them understand our needs, but also to translate it both ways and to make opportunities for farmers to be able to have conversations with each other is, it's an old school answer, but it's really important.